Hey y'all, it's Functional Nutrition Friday. My name is Crystal Meadows. I'm a nutritional therapy consultant and an autoimmune warrior, and I'm on a mission to serve you on your healing journey. So today we're kicking off a series here where we're going to be talking about hormones. This is a big topic, a lot of hormones to talk about. We're going to start today with thyroid. So hypothyroidism is a really common thing that I see in my practice. It can be Hashimoto's thyroiditis, or it can just be hypothyroid symptoms as a result of some other problems, which we'll get to today. So the really common symptoms that we see with hypothyroidism, of course, the most notorious is probably weight, right? Weight gain and difficulty losing weight. And then we can also see symptoms like hair loss and fatigue, like really debilitating fatigue. It can be pretty devastating how bad that fatigue is. And we also will see cold hands and feet. Depression is also really common. Constipation, insomnia. There are a bunch of symptoms that can be attributed to low thyroid function. And so a lot of times what happens to us when we have these symptoms and we go into our doctor and we say, hey, I'm having trouble losing weight, I'm feeling depressed, I'm wondering if you would check my thyroid for me. A lot of times what happens is the doctors either don't look at the right labs or they don't interpret the labs correctly. And then they end up looking at you and going, well, your lab results are normal. So here's an antidepressant and, just eat fewer calories and exercise more. Many of us have heard that. I don't know, I'm sure many of you watching this video have heard that yourself. It's very frustrating. So, we're going to talk today about what proper thyroid function is, what labs you should look at, and how to interpret those lab results. So, your thyroid is this butterfly-shaped gland right here in the front of your neck, and it produces multiple thyroid hormones, but most of what it produces is T4. So many times doctors will actually test TSH. Well, TSH isn't actually a thyroid hormone. It is an important hormone to look at to assess thyroid function, but it isn't a thyroid hormone. It's actually a brain hormone. It's a pituitary hormone. So your pituitary gland is kind of the puppet master where it talks to a lot of the different organs in your body and tells them what to do. And so TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. So your pituitary gland sends TSH to your thyroid that says, hey, we need some thyroid hormone in the blood, make some. And so then your thyroid gland produces multiple thyroid hormones, but most of what it produces is T4. Well, T4 is the inactive form of thyroid hormone. And so what has to happen then is that your body then has to convert T4 to T3. T3 is the active form of thyroid hormone, and every cell in your body needs T3. Okay, it's a really important hormone. And so when there's not enough of it, it's when you don't have enough T3 that you end up having those symptoms that we were talking about. And so this conversion process from T4 to T3 is actually happens primarily in the liver and in the gut. And so what can happen is you can have your TSH and your T4 if you're looking at lab work and your practitioner only looks at TSH or maybe TSH and T4. Those labs can actually look really good and you can still be having thyroid hypothyroid symptoms, because if that T4 isn't properly getting converted to T3, then you're still going to be having symptoms of hypothyroidism because your cells don't actually have the usable form of thyroid hormone. So my first recommendation, if you are going to use lab work to assess your thyroid function, that I think my recommendation as an absolute bare minimum place to start, you need to look at TSH, free T4, and free T3. If I had to choose just one of those, I would actually choose free T3. I think all three of those are important to look at to get the full picture, but that free T3 is actually a really important piece of the puzzle that a lot of doctors don't look at. So that's absolute bare minimum to start with. I also think it's important to look at both of your thyroid antibodies, which that would be TPO thyroid peroxidase, and TGAB, which is the thyroglobulin antibody. And that's a really good place to start in assessing your thyroid function. And like I said, we can see that, TSH and T4 can look pretty good, but we may still be having hypothyroid symptoms. This is what happened to me. The first doctor that I went to when I started having symptoms was actually a functional medicine practitioner. And, because I'm super smart, and so I knew to go to a functional medicine doctor, and he still got it wrong. Sometimes functional medicine doctors get it wrong too. And he tested TSH, free T3, and free T4. Listened to my symptoms, and I definitely had multiple hypothyroid symptoms in there. And but he looked at the labs and told me that my thyroid was fine. And every week, or not every week, but every month when I would go back for a follow-up visit, we would have that same conversation of, those sure do sound like thyroid symptoms, but we checked your thyroid and it's fine. Well, what it was, my TSH and my free T4 were fine, but my free T3, it was in range, but it was very low, on the low end of the range. So when you get your lab results, you'll have your result, and then the lab compares it to a range that's just an average of the results that they get from all the patients in a certain area. And so the lab range is 2.2 to, I don't remember the high end of it, but let's say the lab range is 2.2 to 4 or something like that. Well, so 2.2 is in range, the bottom of the range. 2.1 would be out of range. My result was 2.3. And based on this, I had, my free T3 was at the very bottom of the range. I presented with classic hypothyroid symptoms, but my first practitioner never addressed thyroid function because it was in range, because my free T3 was in range. So at that time, looking back on that now, now knowing what I know now, I can see that means there was a conversion problem happening from T4 to T3. Probably the result of inflammation, low cortisol, things like that. So there are a lot of things that can, so we're just going to talk about that, the things that can disrupt that conversion process. And so it can, of course, like I said, it happens in the liver and in the gut. So if you have any kind of liver congestion, if you have any kind of gut dysbiosis, that will disrupt your thyroid hormone conversion. The other things that can disrupt that, if you're anemic, so if you have low iron, cortisol, either too much or too little, can actually disrupt that process as well, just inflammation in general. And then some of the things, one of the things that's kind of the easiest for us to address on our own is that we need selenium to convert T4 to T3. Our body needs that micronutrient, needs selenium. Now, I don't recommend that you just run out and buy a selenium supplement and start popping those pills if you haven't tested to see if you're deficient in selenium. But a little nutrition hack for you is that you can safely add Brazil nuts to your diet, and really just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day will actually have a lot of selenium, and that can help if you're deficient in selenium. If that's part of the problem, then just eating a couple of Brazil nuts every day will actually help with that thyroid conversion process. Now, we'll have to talk some more about thyroid in another video, but what I want to leave you with today is that, if you think that you have hypothyroidism, if you're experiencing hypothyroid symptoms, we want to lower inflammation as much as we can, and we can do a lot of that with diet and lifestyle. That's the good news, that you can reduce inflammation by adopting an anti-inflammatory diet. So my recommendation, absolute minimum for hypothyroidism, is to eliminate gluten and dairy. Soy is also a good one to eliminate. And really, if you're ready to jump into to an anti-inflammatory diet, I recommend starting with paleo. I think that's a great place to start to lower inflammation. You want to make sure that you give that a full 30 days before assessing whether or not it's helping you, whether or not it's working, because it takes time to bring inflammation down. We're coming up on 10 minutes here, so I'm going to stop this discussion for today, and we're going to continue talking about thyroid some more next week. All right, y'all, drop me a comment. Let me know what else you want to learn about, okay? Have a great day.